Hello, hello, hello. So we made it over. It is our weekly skill builder. I'm going to give everyone a few seconds to pop on, get situated, turn my AirPods on. So hopefully this is clear to everyone. Hopefully I will not fight with trying to see live comments this week. We'll see. Seems like often that is kind of a struggle for me. So if you were coming over from our quick little YouTube pre-show, thank you for joining me over there and the learning curve there, trying to get that going. I am trying to track down my clear vinyl that I have pre-cut because if I don't put that somewhere safe now, it's clear vinyl, it's going to disappear. So I'm telling you right now, for my own sake, will you remind me that I'm setting this on top of my heat press? So I remember where it is because I'm going to forget when we get there, I promise. But we're going to do applique and shaker designs tonight. I've got my materials picked out. If you got a pack from Michelle at So Unique Designs, you got 4 pieces of vinyl for the front and the back of your design, along with 2 pieces for your applique and all the bits that you need. Oh, and the clear vinyl and the bits that you need. And these are adorable, but I kind of wanted to make some Halloween themed ones. So I'm going to save these for something else. But I see the comments on my phone. Hi, Crystal. I can see you there, but it will not show up on my iPad. And it's making that. Hi, Nancy. I see Nancy, but Crystal will pop on my iPad. All right, but we're here. So shakers. I love making shakers. They're super fun. And I really like the appliques because they pop. This is an old set that I have, but they're just fun. I like them. My daughter likes them. Her friends like them. But this is just a basic shaker design, and they're a lot easier than you think. Hi, Regina. Hi, Bobby. All right, so step one, get your materials ready to go. I have cutaway stabilizer in my hoop. We are doing some appliques, which are a little more dense, so I like to use cutaway. If you don't have cutaway, double up your tearaway, just so you don't have to pull out on you. Hi, Nancy. If you are using fabric for your applique, which you absolutely can do, I like to use a product called Eden Bond, which is two-sided fusible kind of film. Excuse me. And what that does is when you put it on your fabric, it's going to kind of help seal those edges for you so it doesn't fray as easily. Kind of hold it in place. It makes it easier to cut, easier to see what you're doing. Because if you're using just quilting cotton, it can just be a little more finicky to work with. If you have not made an applique before, I actually do recommend that you start with vinyl just to kind of get a feel for how they work because vinyl is a little more forgiving if you were to actually cut into your stitches a little bit. Um, it's not going to fray on you, so it's just kind of easier to work with. The other thing is it's super important that you've got some good applique scissors. I have entirely too many pairs of applique scissors. I'm only finding 4 at the moment, but there are so many different kinds of applique scissors. So these are what's known as a duckbill. They've got this rounded. You kind of go in, it cuts with this. You can get them pretty close. Hi, Krista again. Hi, Katrina. Um, these are kind of curved. It's a little curve on that. I actually don't like these very much. I know some people do, it's their favorite. And I find with applique scissors, you kind of find what works for you with like, I don't know how you hold them, what your style is, what you're comfortable with. There's no like right or wrong. Hi, Christine. Um, you kind of got to figure what's worth for you. These are my favorite applique scissors. These are Kai 4 inch, maybe 5 inch. They're on Amazon, like $13 to $15. I go through a lot of these. They do tend to dull after a while. I mean, I guess I could get them sharpened, but for like honestly, like 15 bucks, I'm just gonna get new ones. And I have probably 4 pairs of these, but these are one I can find right now. Oh, and the duckbills also come in smaller size. There's lots of options for applique scissors. Um, if you are just starting, do not spend a lot of money on them. Like I said, these are $15 on Amazon. These are like probably $10. I know these are a lot of people's favorites. I cannot tell who these are by. I know if you go to my Amazon storefront, I do have these linked. But yeah, don't spend a lot of money on them. You don't need to spend a lot of money. Yeah, bobby seeds. Some people love duckbills. Like everyone, I think, has their preference. Just what works for you. So figure out what kind you like. Get a couple pairs to play with. You don't have to spend more than 20 bucks to get a couple pairs. Um, and then just figure it out. These remind me if I'm like in surgery. I don't know. I don't like them, but I tend to kind of reach for these two the most. These are the duck bells. I like these if I'm using a vinyl that is prone to getting scratched, or if I'm on doing stuffies and I'm afraid I'm going to like stab or cut into the material. I like to use these a little safer. These are a lot sharper, and I find easier to kind of jab and to poke things. Yeah, you know what, Nancy? That I love that. So you use whatever works for you as long as you're small enough that you can get in. But you know what? You like the cuticle scissors? These, this is so random. So I have these little gel nail strips, and I wonder if they're kind of like these. I don't use this for crafting, but they use like net like gel nails, like little strips that came in the box. And dude, Nancy, I'll send you. I have like 5 pairs of these that it comes in each box. So if that's something that's going to be helpful and you think you might use these, I can send them to you because I they're just sitting around. I have like 5 pairs. Hi Karen, hi Rita. All right, so kind of materials there out of the way. As for clear vinyl, I am using TPU. I know I talked in a past live about differences in clear vinyl. TPU is a little more pliable and softer. You can use either PVC or TPU for shakers. I don't actually have a preference. I just happen to have a giant roll of TPU that I got when I was doing these flat bracelets. Probably like 20 yards at this point of TPU. So I'll be using TPU vinyl for the rest of my life, probably, just because it's what I have. But get what you can find. You can get it at the craft store, you can get it online. I know some people have actually taken the packaging, like bedding packages, um, and used that before too, to put over shakers, or people that sew will use it for ID slots to have that clear vinyl over. So don't get too wrapped up in like the exact kind of vinyl that you have. This came from So Unique Designs. It's their TPU, and I want to say it's 3 millimeters, which works out to be, I think, about 12 gauge, but I could be off. You can use anything between 12 gauge up to 20 gauge, or you can do 3 millimeters up to 5 millimeters. I think I'm correct on that. Anything lighter is going to be more prone to ripping. Anything heavier is going to be harder to get through. No, is it 20 gauge? I gotta look it up. Don't quote me on the millimeters. The gauges I know I'm correct on, but millimeters I can't. The conversion, I may be off on that. Michelle's here. Michelle, correct me on the millimeters because I know I'm not saying that right. What is your TPU? Is it 3 millimeters or is it five? Did she leave us again? Maybe she'll hear me and she'll answer. But go by the gauge. If you need me to look up the millimeter for you, I absolutely can. I just, off the top of my head, I think I'm mixing up the millimeters and the gauges. So, aha, Michelle, thank you. And then it's is 20 gauge, 0.5 millimeter. Is that correct? Was I right? Or was I just making stuff up? So, okay. So 12 to 20 or zero point 0.3, I think 2.5 millimeter is kind of the thickness that you're going to want. But, all right. So as for the bits, I do not like to use true craft glitter for these because this is what happens. It just sticks and it gets to everything. Like I literally, it doesn't move, it doesn't shake. You don't get that a full effect of a shaker. You can absolutely try it and you may like the effect of it. Like there's nothing wrong with it, but I like when I make shakers, I like for them to be able to move. I want things to move around, to actually like shake. So that's just my preference. You can absolutely use what you have on hand or what you want to use, but just be warned if you're using like a fine craft glitter, it's more likely to stick to that clear vinyl on both sides. See, it just sticks, and not shake as much as you may want if that's the effect you're going for. Some people will say that you can grab a dryer sheet and you can rub it on the inside of your clear vinyl, and that will help with some of the sticking. I've tried that and I didn't get it, really doesn't help as much as I would like for it to with the finer gauge glitter. I like to use, if I'm going to use glitter, I like to use heavier, thicker glitter. Like this is a shaped glitter. I like to use these because they're not quite as sticky. Like, I mean, they're still glitter and they'll still stick a little bit, but they're not just going to stick to me forever and never come off. So that is my preference with that. You can get shape glitter and all kinds of different shapes. I have hard-sided clouds. These are bats. I also like to use clay slices, um, which are just little pieces of polymer clay that have been cut into pieces. And they tend to kind of move around really well too with those. And you can get these in all different shapes and colors. Even these guys over here, these little sprinkles are clay. So I like these. I also like these little beads, but same thing with these little tiny beads. Same as with the fine glitter, the smaller they are, the more likely they're just gonna like stick. You can tell on there. The bigger ones, not as much. So be mindful of that when you're putting it in. Can you even tell on camera how much it's kind of sticking to the top there? Um, so I like to kind of mix up the sizes that way if some of it sticks, I've got different things that are shaking. So it kind of gives me some options so I get the effect that I want. So just think about the effect that you may want when you make yours, because you may want it just to be all glitter and to stick, and that is fine. Um, Also, what I will say too is if you're just starting with this, less is kind of more in the beginning, because if you put too much in there, you may not like the effect. It may not move around as much either. But there's no right and wrong. Some people love to fill them up. Some like to put a few pieces in. Just do what you feel like. Start slow. And if you feel like you want to add more, then add more. No right or wrong on that. Totally up to you. Um, with that, we're going to be using the same hardware for last week. We did on the bag tags, which are the eyelets. And you can use wire rings. You can use these little gate ring things that I have. You can use pretty much anything you use in a bag tag. Make it a bookmark, put a tassel on it. However you want to do it is totally fine. So I think that is it for the materials that I have over here. Hi, Piera. So I think we're ready to start stitching. So I was super successful last week moving my phone over to the mount on my machine without disconnecting or causing problems. So I don't want to get like cocky about it and say, yeah, I got this, because watch me like accidentally end this. If I do end this, I will pop right back on. But bear with me and bear with the seasickness as I move you over to the other, to my machine mount. So I'm gonna move this out. Sorry, sorry, sorry. Over, back of my hand there. Sorry. Okay, don't end, don't end, don't end. Did we get in? We're in. 2 weeks in a row. Look at that. See, I can't get cocky because what's going to happen is I'm going to mess everything up if I do that. All right, so that was it for materials. All right, I got my iPad here so I can see conversations. All right, so Krista, you are good. You're ready to go. I didn't even pull out beads for this week. I guess I can do that while some of the stuff is running. I picked out the shaker bits before I wanted to use, but I didn't pull out the beads or anything. All right, so we're over at the machine. I have both the designs loaded in my hoop, and I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to be stitching them out at the same time. So if you're just doing one, this will take you a lot less time to get through than if you were stitching both. But I am going to do a little Halloween theme with mine. I haven't even picked out thread colors. Um, but we're going to start, as always, with our placement stitches right in our stabilizer. I always like to use a contrast color on my stabilizer so that I can see it when I go to lay down my vinyl. And I have my pieces of vinyl ready for the front of these. And we'll see. And I did a color sort on my machine, which sometimes is more accurate than others. Sometimes it likes to put things in crazy order of steps. So we'll see how right it is tonight. So at least our placement seems to be in the right order here. So on to that. And even though we're only stitching 2 designs, this video will probably be longer than last week's because it's going to take more steps to get through this. All right, so we have a placement down. I'm gonna lay down my vinyl. I've got 2 pieces cut here. Thank you, Michelle. I'm gonna lay this down and I'm gonna stitch out. This is gonna be my, actually I'm gonna do that. This is my placement for my applique. I could have done that. This is my backing. I'm sorry. This is my backing down. Ignore me. I'm tired. We've had volleyball all weekend. All right. So I'm going to tack that down. Now, the next step is going to be tacking down my, oops, stop. See, it's color sort for me. Great. All right. So same thing on the other one. We're tacking down and also adding our placement stitch for what's going to be our applique piece. Make sure all my stitching lines are covered. I don't want any surprises where I'm cutting too close. We went to a friend of ours volleyball game on Friday. Then yesterday we had our daughter's volleyball game, and then we had a little festival we had to go to, and then today we had another volleyball game. Then we had dinner after that. So it's been a fun weekend, but a long weekend. All right, so I have my front vinyl pieces down. I have my placement down for my applique. So I need to, for my applique piece, it's got to fit here, making sure I'm covering all those stitches on both of those pieces. So I'm going to do green and purple on mine to make it kind of Halloweenish. So make sure that when you put your applique piece down now, it's going to be covering all of those stitches just like we did before. So this is going to tack this down for us so then we can cut away our excess material after the step stitches. And this is the same order of go for any applique that you're going to do. You're going to have a placement stitch and you're going to have a tack down stitch for the applique piece itself. This applies to any applique ever. All right, so now we have, let's stop this. Like I said, I've got mine color sorted so it's not stopping on me, so I just stop it manually. Same thing down here. I'm going to go ahead and lay my next applique piece down, making sure it's covering all those stitches. We don't want to be too close. I'm using purple, but I think I'll be able to see it when I cut. So when you are doing your tack down for your applique pieces, it's helpful to also have a contrasting thread. Sometimes it can be really hard to see black thread on black when you're trying to cut the excess away, or white thread on white, or purple on purple like I am here, but we're going to roll with it. Um, so keep that in mind. If maybe your eyes need a little help, just don't be afraid. The stitches here will get covered up on the next step. So don't worry about using a contrast color so you can really see those stitches so you know where you're cutting. All right. I've got my handy dandy applique scissors. So it's much easier to take this off your hoop and go to your table and do this. But I try to do my best to keep this on camera, and I don't want to keep moving back and back and forth to the table in here because the more I do that, the more I risk accidentally turning off the video. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to start with these scissors because this diamond dust does kind of scratch a little bit if I beat into it with the scissors. So I like to try and be careful with diamond dust because I tend to scratch it a lot more times than I want to. I have found when you cut applique, the easiest way for me to do this and to get really precise and close is to cut away from your non-dominant or cut towards your non-dominant hand. So I'm right-handed as opposed to cutting this around like this because the cutting part's here, right? So here it gets close to the stitches. When you're cutting here, you've got this big part down against your stabilizer, and it's hard to get close. So I like to cut away from my dominant hand. So for me, I'm cutting kind of the opposite of how I would if I were to be cutting paper, which could be kind of counterintuitive, but I find that it gets you close without trimming your stitches. If you're worried, kind of go big at first, and then you can go back and clean it up. So again, I'm trying to keep this in frame. It's much easier if I were to go to my table and do this, but here we are. And again, vinyl is way more forgiving for appliques. If you were to accidentally cut into your stitch here, you're much less likely to have that where that pulls in and doesn't get covered like you do fabric because fabric frays. So if you are a novice with appliques and they make you nervous, absolutely start with vinyl. And I like to do thinner vinyls rather than a marine because they're just easier to cut and work with. And then once you get the hang of it, you can go to whatever you want. All right, so this is my first pass. I'm pretty good. I got a couple pieces that I will go in and I will clean up here in a second. But start on my second piece. I'm gonna do the same thing. So I said that probably makes way more sense than if how I was explaining it. So yes. So I'm right-handed, so I'm going to stitch clockwise, right? Because I'm still going around this way. But all right, so same thing. I am stitching here. Get my small piece there against the bottom of it. Hopefully I'm doing this well enough on camera that you can see. All right, all right, all right. Just pretend that my machine bed is a table. I think appliques used to really intimidate me until I learned how this cutting trick to cut this way. One, it's just way easier. And two, things like heat and bond for fabric and the fact that vinyl is just easier to work with when you're cutting. I'm definitely gonna have to clean some of these pieces up. I'll show you in a second. Probably wouldn't if I was at a table. All right, so all right, I'm around. So a couple pieces I'm a little worried about, which I'll trim up. You can see here, and they might even be okay, but I like to get as close as I can. So like those pieces here, I'm just gonna go back in and I'm just gonna trim those up and get a little closer. So don't be afraid to go back in. If your first pass, you have a few pieces that are kind of sticking out. No worries there. Oh, now I'm gonna jinx it. Don't jinx it. I'll pop the because that'll happen to one day too. Oh, see, there's glitter stuck to me for messing with glitter earlier. All right, I think the rest of this is pretty good. Let me check my purple. There's a couple pieces I want to get here in. The tops here. Let's get those out of the way. A little piece here. What is that? That's red. Where'd you go? There it is. All right. So I think we're good there. I'm pretty close. It doesn't need to be like right there. Get as close as you can, but don't fret too much. All right, so we're ready to do our satins around our appliques now. So we'll cover up all those pieces. So I'm going to start here at the top one. We got green, and I'm going to see what kind of green do I want here. Is that? Oh yeah, we'll do like a neon lime green here. All right, I'm in. And this is going to be our longest part or stitching out these outlines here. Like this is 5 minutes for each of these just to stitch this part out. So what I do like to watch is when these satins run, it will run a line around the outside of the design and a line on the inside of the design. And that will also tell you before it starts actually getting to the heart of it, if you've gotten close enough. So if you find that on one of these passes, like this is on the outside here, if you find that on any of these passes here on the outside that your vinyl is extending past that stitching, stop, trim it up a little bit, and then start the step over, and you'll be good. To see, it does that outline on the inside and outside before it actually starts doing the back and forth of the satin. So you have that kind of like fail stop there to check to make sure you got close enough. So we are good. Everything is getting covered. So we're in good shape here. Oh, that's cool, Chris. I keep looking at the IKEA carts that if I want to, I have, I don't know, I keep buying stuff to make me more organized. And I don't know, I have lots of ways to be organized, but somehow I manage to still not be all that organized. I even have, I have a cutting machine, so I have my hardware all labeled with different stickers and decals. Those things, I guess, are organized, but my fabric and my vinyl is a whole different situation. Right. So as you see, satin's covering everything, so we're done. We got no vinyl popping out here. This will be our longer of the steps, will be this satin outline. And one thing I do want to mention too, because I do get emails about this, there's a reason that I have the plastic, the clear vinyl attached after we run the satins, because the satin, as you see, is a lot of stitches going in a very small space. So what can happen if you were to stitch a satin directly on a clear vinyl? So when you think of a vinyl, like the vinyls that we have the vinyl, the plastic part here on the front, but you have backing, right? So there's something to kind of give this some integrity. With clear vinyl, you don't have that. You have no backing. It's literally just a piece of plastic. So when you stitch a satin on that clear vinyl, you're likely for that vinyl at some point to perforate because of all the holes that you've created with this thick stitching. So it may not happen right away, maybe fine for a while, but you run the risk of that clear vinyl just pulling totally away from your design. So that's the reason I have it on afterwards, because when we add it afterwards, we're only stitching over it one time. So just one pass of stitch. Well, it's a bean, so it goes through three times, but it's much less stitching and much less holes than if we were to do this attach the clear under a satin stitch. So I promise to do it on purpose, and that is why I do it that way. And I know it means that you can see the vinyl technically, like when technically, if you're looking really hard, like on this, really hard, you can see the edge of the clear vinyl, but honestly, it's clear vinyl. So, like, yeah, I guess if you were looking for it, you could sort of kind of see it, but it tends to disappear in that stitching. So you don't really see the edges. We're going to trim it up. So you really can't see it. But this way, I've only stitched that down. Like I actually have space in between the stitches. So it isn't just that thick satin and million holes on what is essentially a piece of plastic. So that's the reason I do it that way. And I don't, if anyone here is a sewist and has sewn bags or sews bags, it's kind of the same idea with how when we're sewing bags. Oh, no, we don't want to do that in green. I appreciate the color sorting, but we do want to have a different color there. Anyone that has sewn, like on a sewing machine, sewn vinyl bags, they know that they will increase their stitch length. And the reason being is because if you have too many holes in an area of vinyl, they're more likely to perforate or tear. And that's the same reason if when you are making um, in the hoop bags that are made of vinyl and you like to add a tab on the side. After if you do that, I recommend that you reinforce that vinyl on the side, that little tab in some way by either adding some twill tape or some interfacing, because over time that tab is likely to rip and pull away from your bag. So that's my little lecture about vinyl and perforation. Gus, why are you down here? Gus is in the corner lurking, and I really need all little pieces of thread and cat fluff and stuff on my floor. That's great. I really did. I vacuumed here not too long ago, like within the last week. And I'm actually really bad about vacuuming my craft space or my workspace because no one comes down here but me. And I actually did this time, but it doesn't look like it. Right. It's the same thing I didn't mention before, but it does go around the outside, it goes on the inside. So you'll be able to see on there if you've got some vinyl extending past that line of stitching, if you want to trim that up a little bit more. Yeah, Nancy, you absolutely can. If you don't want to trim that vinyl up the same way and you want to cover the whole design, you can totally leave it open. Um, that's totally up to you. There's nothing wrong about doing that. I think it's just a preference. I think some people do, and you 100% can do that. It gives you just less cutting overall if you like it that way. Um, so yeah, you absolutely can. I lost mine. There it is, over there. And one thing I didn't mention, I don't think I put in the materials. Um, if you have a pair of chopsticks or pencils or thinner pens or knitting needles, it's going to help you when we go to add the bits inside the clear vinyl. You can kind of make a makeshift funnel with those to kind of help direct things in and open that hole up. I don't think I mentioned that. It's not a must, but it definitely helps. So, or even a crochet hook, if you've got anything around that shape or size that you can put in, and I'll show you when we get there, but while this is stitching, if you want to try and quick sew something, just two of them to help kind of get those bits in the vinyl so they don't go everywhere on you. Even pencils will work in the pinch or pens. Just make sure it's not something you're going to draw or color on your design with. All right, so we are almost to, after this, we're going to have our little detail with the sprinkles and then the icing, and then we'll be ready to add our clear vinyl. I haven't used a bead scoop spoon. But do I need a bead scoop spoon? It sounds fun. I also am prone to buying every nifty craft thing that I see, and I didn't know this was a thing. I'm Here's a weird person that I am. I'm actually gonna look out for like a coffee spoon, like a perfect coffee spoon, because it's how weird I am. I found a jar at Costco. And it initially had like speared pineapples or something in it, but the jar is so cool looking that I saved it and I scrubbed it up, and now I put our ground coffee in it. But I I want a fun coffee spoon to put in the jar to scoop out the coffee. I don't know why I am the way that I am. I collect trinkets. So if there's a cool bead scoop spoon and I need it, I will find it. All right, so we are ready to start doing our little details and sprinkles. So I am doing just a sprinkle one is my top one here, and then the one with the little icing swirly thingy is my bottom one. I have purple already in my hoop, and I want purple hearts on mine. So the first step on this one is your black sprinkles. I am actually going, and my machine displays colors weird. So what I actually have set in the design is not what machine shows me. So if your machine is telling you it's a different color, your machine is probably right, and my machine is most likely wrong. But this is the first set of sprinkles. It's just three sprinkles for this one. I'm going to jump ahead a couple of steps on mine just so I can leave it the purple threaded. Because I'm going to do the hearts up here in purple. So I had to jump ahead just a little bit to do that. So it just saves me some thread changes. Oh my gosh, Krisha, that's adorable. Yeah, for some reason, my machine, so when I set the colors, I think do Madeira as my default like color catalog because I like the colors they have. But for some reason, my brother doesn't read the Madeira colors correctly, and what it changes it to is sometimes really weird. Like I'll put in black and it'll say it's supposed to be white. Like it'll be the whole opposite. So I can't trust my machine on what it says for the colors. I don't know why. And there's probably a way I can probably set in my machine like the default thread catalog, but I honestly haven't even investigated. I just know what color I want to use and I use it. Is it the same way on yours too, Regina, with it not throwing the right thread colors? I guess I should investigate it, be like, what thread catalog is set, but I don't. If you're really worried about colors, you can always use the PDF that's in the files too to show you what color I assigned, but I kind of typically just wing it. So I'm gonna have to back up now a few steps since I jumped ahead on that. So let me go back up here. What was it? Click. All right, I'm gonna do, let's see, we'll do black for these sprinkles here. Thanks, Laura. Guys, I wanted to do Halloween ones just for funsies. And then I do have next week's design done. It's our lanyard card cases. So those will be up early this week. Michelle also generously put together another project pack for everyone that wants it. It is up on her website. I don't have a link for it. I'll share it in the group tomorrow. If you order tonight or tomorrow, you should be able to get it in time. Yes, so these are all diamond dust. And then I think I'll do white for the other sprinkles on this one. And then I'm gonna switch to this one. Nancy, I saw the vinyls that you picked. I love those. And this one, I know this one's diamond dust, and I thought I heard Michelle say somewhere she doesn't have like a true lime green, but this is pretty close. And I don't remember. I'll have to ask her which one this is. Oh, thank you, Nancy. Yeah, she's got you. There's a sneak peek of the design there too. Unfortunately, next week, I will say those designs are not 4x4 designs. Just the nature of kind of having the bigger case. I can't remember. I don't think the eyelets will fit 4x4 either. I don't think it does. I could be wrong, but I feel like it's not. I feel like it's a little bit wide or a little bit tall to have the eyelet on there. So I cannot do a 4x4 for those when they have to be like a certain size to fit a carton, obviously. Now I gotta look it up. I can't. Oh, orange would have been great. I didn't think about that. Oh well, we're committed to white now. Let me see. Now I'm curious if, oh no, go back. Stop. Go back. Oh my God. I'm gonna type in the lanyard card. I gotta get on my own website and look to see if the lanyard card cases have a 4x4. I want to say they don't. Let's see. Search. Let's find out. No, they don't. They're 4.5. So a little too big for a 4x4. But as for the rest of the designs in the bundle, um, I'll have for when we do the freestanding design, I will have a 4x4 for that. I'll have a 4x4 for patches. I'll include a 4x4 version when we do stuffies and zipper bags. But I can't do a 4x4 with a lanyard case. I can't do it for mug rugs. I can't do it for covers, and I can't do it for the sleep mask because it just won't fit. So just to give you a heads up on that. Yeah, now I wish I had done orange on that top one, but it's fine. We're okay. We're gonna go with that. All right. So this one, okay, actually it's gonna stitch right ahead, and that's fine. I want to keep white for the icing there. So, and then I think I'll do lime green for the hearts. Michelle was here, but I think she left us. I'm not sure if she's gonna do so freestanding. Obviously, there's nothing necessarily that you need a project pack for, because you can stitch on anything, fabric, towels, shirts, whatever. I even bought like over a year ago, I bought a bunch of like placemats and things to stitch on, which I've not even tried yet. The material's weird. I keep saying I want to try those, but I won't do that like in a live video. But I'll probably do, might do a tote bag or a towel. We'll see. That's for next week. And then I think we go into patches after that. Yes, patches are my favorite. She may do a project pack for patches. Maybe. We were talking about it. TBD on that. And she doesn't carry like fabric for sale, so she won't have them for mug rugs, or sleep masks because you'll need different materials for that. But things with vinyl, she was really trying, or even patches, she's really trying to make sure she can put this packs together. Yeah, Nancy, I think I'm just being a chicken because I got these. They're a weird material. I got three different kinds, and I'm gonna drag them all out. But they're like this. I don't know. They're not jute. I don't know what they are. They're like these with this texture. You can tell. And I don't know how it's gonna work. I mean, I'm sure I can stitch on them. I just haven't figured out how I'm gonna properly like. I need to play with stabilizers and stuff. And then I've got this too, which is more. I think would behave more like a vinyl. It's plastic, I think. But I got some of those, and I did want to do some stuff. And I keep wanting. I got this color actually to do like Halloween designs with this. And I got the red ones to do Christmas designs with, and yet here I am. I've done neither of those things on those. I have all these ideas sometimes, and I'm not great at executing some of them. It took me way too long. The free of purchase this week, the Hello Kitty set. Um, I like I ended up rearranging my entire craft room to find the pom poms because I had this vision of putting those pillows together with the Halloween pom pom around it, and I couldn't find pom poms, and so we spent like 4 hours rearranging everything because I decided the reason I couldn't find them was because I wasn't organized enough, and so we rearranged this bunch of stuff, and I did find them. But it took me even after that, it took me took me like 2 weeks to finally get around to stitching them out and sewing the pillows up. Oh, Diamond Dust is my favorite vinyl, Christine. Seriously, Nancy, we should just do it because I've been a chicken too, so we should just do it. Can't be that bad. What's the worst that's gonna happen? They're not that thick. I don't think they're gonna mess our machines up. Just put some water soluble stabilizer on top so that it evens it out. We'll see. Maybe I'll do something this week on some of them. But we'll probably start doing some Christmas stuff here soon. Yes, Christine Diamond Dust is my favorite vinyl to use, seriously, because it's thin enough, but it's not stretchy and it pulls up to statins. So I do, it just makes things a lot easier. I enjoy it. Yes, what do you want? My dog, whenever he wants something, he stops and he stands and he stares at you like he's staring through your soul. And it sounds like it's not a big deal, but it might be the most annoying thing to be stared at for whatever length of time until you do what it is that he wants you to do. Yeah, Diamond Dust is the prettiest vinyl too. It's got that nice like sparkle to it, but it's not quite as like in your face as like a glitter. And I do love like glitter vinyl too. Um, but it's a little more subtle, which is nice. So this one, the purple, I think is like she has the metallic diamond dust, and I think the purple is the metallic one. And she's got a red metallic one, which is in a green one. They're so pretty for Christmas and holiday designs. It's like a richer color, and I love those. And I promise, I'm not an affiliate. I don't make any money off promoting Diamond Dust. I just like it a whole lot. And I need to try and talk Natalie over at So Hungry Hippie to get her gumdrop line back in because that was also my favorite. The gumdrop white is my favorite white vinyl of all time in the history of ever. Um, and I have maybe 2 rolls left. Last time I got like 15 rolls when she had it in. And I've been slowly kind of parceling it out when I use it, but I don't know if she's going to get me back in stock or not. See, Chris, that would annoy me too. My dog's so short, he can't reach anything. But it's the staring through my soul. And like I notice it if I'm just sitting and not paying attention, like I just feel it. Like, why are you staring at me? Kelly, you found us. And I'm running low on some diamond those colors too. I do need to place another order and kind of stock up on some colors. I'm trying to be good and be more aware of my spending and use kind of what I have because I have so much stuff, but there's certain colors that I'm low on that I love. Like their cotton candy. It's like an ombre and it's beautiful. And I am out of that. And I really do want to get some more. All right. So now we are on to our hearts for the second cookie, even though it's jumping back to the first, which we already did. Like I said, I color sorted this on my machine and I feel like it kind of went and did some crazy order with that on me. So you will not happen to be jump around your machine if you're doing this. But I am because my machine sorted it all weird on me. I lost the green that I had earlier. Oh, there it is. It fell back here. All right, so I'm doing green down here for the hearts on this one. Hopefully it's not just my dog that's staring at people. He's down here now, but he finally laid in his bed, so which normally the cat kicks him out of and lays in, and he just has to lay on the floor. And when I say the cat kicks him out of it, I just mean the cat lays there and he doesn't bother to try to move the cat. So he just goes up and lays on the floor. All right, so right after we stitch this step, we finished with the arts for our second cookie. We're going to be tacking down our vinyl. The one thing I'll say about shaker design, some designs I include a placement stitch for the clear because it may not be immediately obvious where the shaker part is, but some I don't. And the reason being, I mean, I think it's obvious kind of that this is going to be where we're going to place clear vinyl. You don't necessarily need a guide for that. So sometimes I don't include it. So that's the one thing that I don't consistently do because you'll see, like obviously we're gonna put the shaker bit there. And I can't remember on this design if I did the placement or not, but I'll find out in a second. It's not really necessary unless you're doing a more intricate design or only part of the design just to kind of show you. But this is the applique shaker is taking up the bulk of this design. Oh, Christmas cookies too. See, I didn't think about that. Yeah. Or Valentine's. You do all the colors. Because yeah, they'd be super cute if you did like green and red for those. And then Valentine's, you could just like pinks and reds. Do all the holidays. Even for like Easter, you could just do a bunch of pastels. I think is that our last one? Or we got one more heart? Oh, we got one more heart. And I remember now where I put my clear vinyl. It's on my heat press. I remember. If I didn't tell you all that's where I put my clear vinyl, I would have forgotten and I would have been frantically running around trying to find where I put said clear vinyl. And I eventually would have cut another piece out because I would not have found it. All right, so I can go back because, like I said, my machine put things in a crazy order when I color sorted it, but we're way up here. I did put a placement stitch down. So I'm not going to stitch a placement stitch because I know what I'm doing, but there's a placement stitch for your clear vinyl here that you can run that to show you where to place your clear vinyl. But honestly, we don't, we know we're going to place it over applique. We don't need that. So instead, I'm going to skip that. If you're more comfortable running it, absolutely run it, but that's not necessary. Grab your clear vinyl. I like to, before I put the clear vinyl on, just make sure that you've taken a second and you wipe down any fingerprints that you might have on the inside that's going to go down. So I kind of just rub them on my pant leg or my shirt just to get that off. Um, and I am going to lay this down over it, making sure it's covering up my entire design. I don't want to have any pieces where it's not going to be covered. And I just kind of hold that down in place for a second. You can tape it if you want to be secure. Once it gets going, you're good. And it's going to stitch around the majority of the applique here, and it's going to leave you a gap along the top. I like to use the same color as my satin stitch, so it kind of blends in. If you want it to stand out, you can make it stand out. Like if you wanted to put the contrast color in here, you could. But Nancy asked earlier, we're going to trim this in a second. Nancy asked earlier, can you, when we get to that step, can you skip trimming? If you've cut your clear vinyl piece to be as big as your design, you don't have to trim it. All right, but now I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead and I'm going to tack down my clear vinyl here. And then we're going to go to the table and we're going to add all the bits. So I'm again jumping around my machine, different steps. I'm going to change to match the purple that I have for the outline of this. Oh, see, Kelly, you've got all the ideas. I don't bake a lot of cookies. I buy a lot of cookies. I'm not much of a baker, but I love getting the baked cookies as a gift. That makes me happy. All right, so same thing. I am going to skip that placement because I know where I'm going. I'm gonna make sure that I kind of wipe down the inside of my vinyl here so that this side here doesn't have a bunch of fingerprints on it. And I'm going to cover up my design, making sure that all my satin is covered. I don't want to make sure, if you can tell, I don't want to be up here. I want to make sure, just like before, all this area is covered. And I'm gonna skip that step, and I'm going to tack this down. I said, if you want to tape this on in place, you absolutely can, but I feel like honestly, I'm keeping a close eye when it starts, and it doesn't really shift too much. Especially if you're using it like a marine vinyl, it's more apt to just like kind of be sticky to it. So yeah, we're good. I don't know, Bobby. I don't know. I think I barely have time to cook sometimes. Oh, and here's the thing, like, so what for Father's Day last year, I got my husband a smoker, which we've used the crap out of. It freaking died 2 weeks ago. Like the whole thing died. I'm so mad. And it was just out of warranty. I'm like, oh, and that was the one thing he could do more because he's not very great in the kitchen. He could do that so that I wouldn't have to cook as much, and now it died. But here's the crazy part of all that. I'm gonna move you guys over to the table. Um, so look away if you tend to get sick of a bunch of movement. I'm gonna try really hard not to hang up on you, but we're gonna go back to the table so I can stuff this in. So look away. Or am I back? All right. Am I back? Am I here? I think my internet just got kind of crazy weird. I think I actually didn't do that because it said poor connection, which is weird. So hopefully I'm back. Can someone let me know if you see me? Hopefully, because I see some people are popping back on. So I don't know what happened. I think that was poor connection, and I feel like I'm back. All right, I'm back. Okay, yay. Sorry about that. My goodness. It said like some of the poor connection, even though my internet's fine, so I don't know what happened. But okay, sorry about that. So fun times. All right, so I am here at my table. From here, I'm actually gonna have to lift you up, I think. After all that, I'm gonna have to lift my, and you get to see my very messy craft table, my work table. But I'm gonna move you up so that I can get in here and show you the shaker bits. All right, so sorry about that. But I'm here. Okay. All right, so I picked mine out earlier that I was gonna use. Which I have kind of an array of things that I was gonna use in these. I am going to, so our hole is kind of here at this side here. I'm gonna fill one at a time. I'm gonna use 2 knitting needles that I have, and I'm gonna place those in to kind of create a little triangle, and that kind of helps hold that clear vinyl away from me here, so that, and hopefully everyone's popping back on so we're not missing anything. I didn't do anything while I was gone, so if that helps. I was just busy being confused, which is pretty much the story of my life. But all right, so I have this hole here now that I can put bits in. When I put bits in, I also like to kind of layer them. So I think for the green, I wanted to do bats, spider webs, and maybe some of these sprinkles. So I'm gonna start with these. I like to do a little bit by little bit. So I might put in, say, 30% of the amount of these that I want to put in to start with. So I'm gonna flip this up so that I can come in here, and I'm just gonna dump some in where I've got that kind of pulled away. So I've got some in there. I'm gonna go ahead and use my needles to kind of move that around in there. So it's much less than what I end up putting there with that. Then I'm gonna put in a few spider webs. Yeah, my internet's been being kind of shy lately, which is probably sitting with like an internet connection lost, but then I do a speed test and it's fine, so I don't know what's going on. Of course it would happen during a live. All right, so these guys, I do like to mix and match the shapes the sizes of what I put in these two. But like I said, there's no right or wrong. So just, oh, that was a lot. Just do, oh, I got bats flying away everywhere. Really, you're gonna be difficult. Okay, all right, so I started there to kind of give me a sense for where am I at, how much more do I want to add, and I do want to add a lot more than that. So I'm actually going to add in some purple sprinkles now. Let's see. There we go. And now I'm starting to get where I'm liking the amount in there. Use your knitting needle or what have you and kind of just mix those up in there. Get them mixed around so you get a nice balance so you don't have all the pieces kind of sticking together. And I am going to add, I think, some more of my beads from that I added first, my little round, I don't know what these are called, the holeless beads, and a few more bats. This is probably where that spoon that Nancy was talking about helpful. All right, so let's see where I'm at now. All right, so I got this in there. Here's my needle, and let's see how I'm feeling about that. So here's where I'm at. These will move more when I get it stitched shut, but honestly, I think I kind of want to add something bright in there. Maybe some orange, like someone suggested the stitching for. See, this is how I do shakers. I feel like I get a plan, and then I get the plan going, and then I want to change it. I'm gonna add some orange. I think that'll help kind of make it pop a little bit. Again, there's no right or wrong on these shakers. Do whatever you want to do. These beads that I have here are a little bit bigger. And unfortunately, they're in a giant box of a bunch of different ones, so I kind of have to really, you're gonna slide down there on me. I know my nails are broken off. All right, yeah, I like that orange. I think that really helps make it pop. All right, so here's one, and I think I'm happy with that. So really, it's only about maybe 20% that I actually have filled, so I have room to shake. Some people like to add a lot more, some people add like less. Totally up to you. There's no right or wrong. It's just preference on how you like your shakers to be filled. This bat is under there. All right, so now I have this one done. I'm gonna come over to my other cookie and do the same thing. I'm gonna go ahead and place in my knitting needles. Like I said, if you have crochet hooks, if you've even got a pen, honestly, skinnier pen than probably that. My son was down here the other day making homecoming sign for his girlfriend that he's been dating for forever. I don't know why she needs to ask for homecoming, but whatever, it was cute. And he sprayed adhesive, and I swear it's all over all my stuff. You could even use a pen if that's what you had to. Just make sure that your pen's not out so it's not running on your vinyl. So use whatever you have on hand. It doesn't need to be knitting needles, just something that you can kind of get that open with. All right, so I'm gonna do some green shakers with mine. Make sure I'm seeing everything here. Okay, cool. All right, so now I'm gonna do same thing. Put this up, and I'm gonna add a little bit of my shaker, my sprinkles there. I think I'm gonna do some coffins on this one. Get these little coffin clay slices. This is probably that spoon you were talking about, Nancy, would be helpful. I'm just dumping stuff in, holding my breath. All right, there's that. And again, I just do a little bit of what I'm gonna do at a time. That way I can kind of mix it up so you don't have them all like bunched together. That way I can kind of mix them as I go. So see how they lay and they kind of get integrated. So it's not just like, oh, one of your shakers here and then all this kind over here. All right, what else do I want to do with this one? Let's see. I pulled out stuff earlier and now I'm going like off plan. I need some bats over there too. Or you know what? I think I'm gonna do some of these these again. Over here. All right, and again, a little bit of a time. That way I can kind of mix them up. And let's see. Okay, I think I want to add some spider webs over here too. Oops, or I can throw the spider web right my hoop. That's fine too. And then I'm just gonna kind of mix it around. Excuse me. And honestly, I think I'm happy with that. Maybe a little bit more of the beads. Just to kind of vary that sizing in there. And if you're not getting all this stuff everywhere, or like me, hopefully you're a neater crafter than I am. I usually get this stuff everywhere, and again, I'm just gonna kind of mix that around, and I'm actually happy with that. So I have mine filled, I don't know, maybe 20, this is probably a little more than this one, 20-25%. If you want to add more, go for it. It doesn't have to look just like mine. If you want to add less, go for that too. Rita, that would be the smart way to do it too. So yes, you can 100% out of the bowl, but I tend to just kind of go in the moment. So you can 100% do it in a bowl and mix it around. That's probably smarter. And then yeah, funnel will be great too. All right, so one thing I will say, so these are all clay or glitter bits. So they're gonna be okay if your needle were to hit it going through. This bat wants to be stuck right there. Move, bat. But I like to just make sure that they're kind of near the bottom, and they will bounce around a little bit when you're shaking, but not as much as you think. As you can see, I mean, it does bounce, but you're not going to have a ton going up. I don't worry too much about it, but I do take a second to kind of push it down and to make sure that it is out of the way. I'm actually not going to move you back to the machine for the last, actually, yes, I am. I hate going, I'm afraid now. What happened last time? I'm going to run this on the machine. I'm going to leave you here. All I'm going to do is return to the machine, and I'm going to stitch these closed, and then I'll come back here and we'll add the backing and we'll move on. But this way I'm not worried about like cutting it off again. I think it'll be okay. I think if you don't see good stitching the gap there closed. Because all I'm doing is stitching that gap closed. And that way I'm not terrified of me breaking it again. All right, let me see if I can get, while it's doing that, can I get these bats back in the bag? And as it's going, I mean, just keep an eye. Typically, you'll find that they don't bounce around as much as you think they will. But, let's see. All right, maybe bats. Let me run this last one, jump on the machine, show them back where the green one is. There it is. All right. And this last thing, and then I'll back the table with it. All I'm doing now is doing that step to keep it to close up our clear vinyl. All right. Let's do that again. I'm going to continue with Be Brave. I can do it. I know I'm chicken now. I really don't think it was me though, because it did say like something like poor connection or something. It did push the Siri button, but I don't think that affected it. All right, so I'm gonna close up all my bits to put away. Because what'll happen is I'll accidentally forget they're open, and I'll go to run something on here and I'll throw them everywhere. All right, but they're here. They're ready to get put away. Put these up. Is get something for my backing, because I'm not going to use we're going to use the same color for the backing. You're going to see sheets. We'll see. All right, so I have this done. All right, so now a couple of things. We're gonna trim this vinyl out like we did our applique. Don't worry about being precise. You won't really see it. If you are clear vinyl, it takes up your entire design and it's gonna be over it. You can just leave it in place. You don't have to trim it away. It's just my preference. It doesn't affect anything if you don't. Like I said, if you could see over there or not, you can see, you don't really see the clear vinyl. So if you really wanna extend it out and just have it be the whole front piece, you can. But I'm gonna trim it. Some applique scissors. I'm just gonna go in. This is way easier to trim because it doesn't need to be super exact because you really just don't see it. It kind of blends and melts in. So don't worry about it being perfect on this part because you're not gonna be able to see it. I am not super precise or smooth when I cut the clear vinyl away. Just a row piece of, a row piece there. I saw that. Sometimes it is a little hard to see too because it's clear. All right, got one piece cut out, got a little row piece there. All right, one of our cookies is cut there. All right, my second one. Freddie, really? Are we serious? This is Say Hi to Freddie Mercury. Get down. Sorry for that interruption. A lot of interruptions tonight. Goodness. All right. There's that part. Okay. So now all we have to do is add our backing and run the last step of the machine. I'm going to go ahead and just trim these little loose things up back here. I don't mention that. I typically do that just so I don't have pieces sticking out. I don't have to get all the way around, but just the ones that are going to stick around the edges, just so I don't worry them sticking out of my designs later. The thread pubes, if you will. Get this all cleaned up. And I did not cut a piece of backing vinyl because I didn't expect the whole YouTube thing to take as long as it did. And I'm just going to use some cheaper marine that I'm just going to use for the back there. So I'm going to trim that real quick. I know, cut away from myself, pretend you didn't see that. All right, so backing, put that down, making sure that I'm covering all my stitches from step one are going to be covered. Freddie, go away. It's my favorite cat in the world too, but I don't need you right now. All right, so I'm going to take some tape and I'm just going to tape this in place. Just doesn't shift on me. Again, this is the back of my hoop. So here is my front. And then I'm going to return. Oh, you know what happened when I walked away? Because Freddie, when I walked away over here not watching my machine, since my thread was out of order, it stitched a little heart there that shouldn't have been there over my vinyl. That's what I got. That's fine. You probably can't see it on camera, but I see it there. All right, so I'm gonna go back to my machine and I'm gonna run the last step, which is going to secure my backing piece to the rest of the design. So I'm gonna pick out a matching color for the cookie. So I'll use a tan color here. I like to, when I do my final outline here, I like to match the thread to the vinyl so that it's easier to hide any kind of wonky cutting. That's what happens when I walked away. I wasn't watching it, so. And that's what I get for trusting my machine. Gus is back. Sorry for all the interruptions this evening and the technical difficulties, but we got through it. Actually, it's stitching right there. It's going to illustrate what I was talking about preparation. Even though I shouldn't have it there, I don't want it there, I can show you why. That's exactly why we don't do a lot of stitching over clear vinyl. So, happy accident. Obviously, I can't use the design anymore, but it works. All right, and then do our last one here. Done. Just gotta trim it out and we're done. So I'm gonna use, when I do my eyelets, I'm gonna use my crocodiles again. I talked about those last week. And let's see. These bad boys. Oh no, Nancy, before you added your back yet? If you haven't added your back, just add another piece of clear vinyl over it and pretend that it never happened. So you'll have 2 pieces of clear vinyl. It'll be fine. It's not ideal, but it'll salvage your design. So we're done with that. And now I want to show you how to chalk up before I pop these out. So what happened was I used the color sort option on the machine, so I wasn't jumping back and forth from steps, which I didn't have to do anyways because it was stupid. But when I added the clear vinyl on, my machine assumed it was also running into one of these steps. Now what happened was, if you can tell, it stitched hearts over the clear vinyl. Now look at this. Do you see this? My needle's going right in because those heavy stitches will perforate that vinyl. Up here it's not as noticeable, but down here you can really see where it's going in. So that is why we do the stitching the way that we do it, where it's over all those heavy stitching. But thanks to my machine and thanks to me for not paying attention, I should know better, that it was jumping into a step that we'd already done. So that one, my bad, but it's a good learning to show you why we don't stitch it right there. All right, so we can pop these out of the hoop. Nancy, yeah, absolutely, just try the E6000. All right, and there's the back that was in there, that was in my hoop. All right, so I'm gonna grab my scissors. I actually like to do a rough cut first before I even get the scissors out. Find it easier to trim out when I don't have a ton of excess material to contend with. So move this away. Same thing over here. I promise I'm not going to cut myself with a rotary cutter. All right, so now I have a much more manageable area to work with. I'm actually, this purple one, as cute as it is, this is shot. It's shot, it's cute, but that's gonna start popping out. So I'm actually gonna scrap this one altogether. So I won't even trim that out, but we can trim this one out. This one came out super cute, and see how it all shakes? We get a little bit of dimension with that. We're not totally stuck. Yeah, some of the glitter pieces will prone to stick a little more, like the Bachelor glitter, but they don't stick everywhere, just in some spots. So that's just kind of the nature of having some of these pieces inside, but you get a nice effect with the shaking. It moves. So that's why I like to layer the different types of fillers, the different sizes, so you get that effect of it actually shaking and moving. All right. E6000 does not dry tacky. It's like it is the industrial glue. Fabric Tack, I think, dries tacky. E6000 does, and I use that for hardware. So again, if you're cutting, trim about 1/4 inch or so away. You don't need to get super, super close. The closer you are, the more noticeable any wonky areas you are will stand out. I like to move the vinyl, not the scissors. So I'm using my left hand, or my non-dominant hand here, to turn the vinyl as I go, and the scissors in my right hand pretty much stay stationary in one area. All right, there's that one. All right, so we are going to, ooh, I gotta clean my hole punch out in there. From the last time I used it, we got little pieces of fabric stuck in there, which makes it hard to see the hole that you're cutting, really. My goodness. All right. So my one side of my Crop-A-Dile has a hole punch. Again, if you have a setting kit for your eyelet, it comes with a hole punch. You can use that as well. But I have this tool and I like it, so I'm going to use that. I'm just going to punch the hole there, keep that stitching in the center, and then take my scissors, kind of trim up any loose threads that I have here, the front and back. And I'm going to grab my eyelet. Let's see. All right, and I'm going to do, what color should I do here? I'll do purple. I grabbed my pastel set instead of, no, I don't like that. I'm going to grab my other colors. Yeah, these are a little better. Yeah, the Cam Press absolutely does do eyelets and snaps. So there's different dyes. My big mess over here. There's different dyes. Like this is for hole cutting. So there's hole cutting dyes. Look at my giant mess. Hole cutting dyes. This is for a rivet. I have snaps on there now. I do have, this is the eyelet one. Because I haven't used this, because I use the Crop-A-Dile. And the main reason I don't use it for eyelets is because, one, it only takes Cam Snap brand eyelets, which are fine, but I can't order specific colors, so I'm kind of stuck with whatever colors they send me. And also, I just hate changing the dyes back and forth, so I don't use it as much for that. I mostly use it for snaps and for rivets. But it's a great tool. You can put pretty much anything in that, and it's great. They even have an attachment for key fob hardware too, the flat hardware that you can put on there. They've got dyes for everything on it. All right, so let me get my eyelet backing on here. Push that down, and all right, get that in place. All right, push that down. And I am on. So I have my eyelet on, secure in the front and the back. Get that out of the way. I will grab some of the wire rings that Michelle sent. I'm not going to grab these out tonight. I feel like I've talked your ear off, and everything that could have gone wrong probably tonight probably went wrong. So we're probably better off stopping while we're ahead. All right. So again, you could use a jump ring or a split ring here if you wanted to. If you wanted, say, your wiring to lay flat on this like that. But that's just a preference for appearance. They're actually more secure just attaching it to the wire ring outright. If you don't want to use a wire ring, you could use just a jump ring on it. You can use, I have just these things here, like a keychain connection. You could use a bookmark. I have a bunch of these little lobster clasps here that have gate rings attached to them that are also great. to go in and work great attaching to a zipper or a backpack. You don't need two of them on there, I'm just showing you that. So pretty much anything. And these also work great for ornaments too. If you wanted to add some string to it, or a ribbon or a hook, and you can make an ornament as well if you like a Halloween tree situation going on. Or you just like celebrating Halloween at Christmas. That's cool too. You can go for a Christmas tree. So yeah. All right. So hopefully, despite all my debacles this evening, that was helpful. At least we got to see some things not to do, right? That worked out that way. And thanks for sticking with me for the glitch too. I think we will look to move these to YouTube maybe in about a month. I'm not totally comfortable with using the YouTube platform totally yet. But I do like the options that it gives us to keep the chat dialogue open, which it does not do when I take it off of Facebook. And unfortunately with Facebook, they're not deleting videos after 30 days. So I eventually have to move them to YouTube anyway. So this might be an option that we can keep the chat there, dialogue there. So if someone's rewatching it later, it makes a little more sense. So I'm not answering questions out in left space. But I will give you plenty of heads up before we do that. And you'll know, you'll have all the information. I'm not doing it in the next couple weeks, but I'll get everyone prepped as we go. That too. Oh yeah, I bet so Nancy, yeah, I bet that would go around a walker handle. And it'd be pretty, they're pretty secure. So, and if you're really worried about it, like if you want to put on something permanent, which probably not a walker, but anything you would do permanent, you would add some Loctite or something to the screw, but I guess you wouldn't want to make this permanent. So, but if you're really worried about it, you could. So hopefully that was helpful. Sorry for all the hiccups this week. I'll be back next week, probably same time, same place. And I will get that event scheduled and up by Tuesday, so you know what time and everything. I think Sunday nights tend to work best for everybody, so I think that's what we'll continue to do. Thank you, Rita. My brain's kind of crazy sometimes, so I'm glad it was helpful. And I will see everyone in the group, and I will see everyone next week, hopefully. All right, everyone. Bye. Have a great week.